Well, as you can see, we have some brand new things to do and to play with our UV resin jewelry, beautiful jewelry in closed backed bezels. I'll tell you all about it in just a second. Please come play with us. Okay, I'm going to scoot all of these aside so I can show you how we're going to do this. Now, this is a bezel. It is a closed back. This is our rectangle bezel. They're metal and they're very sturdy, which is really great. Now, the process and the magic comes from paper, which is something we all love. Now, we've put together a kit, and the kit includes, let me turn this over so you can see it. This is acetate. And it's got the shapes of the new bezels that we have, the rectangle, square, circle, oval, and we have two kinds of earrings. We have oval pierced and circular post. So those are this is a tool that you're going to use on the papers. Then we also have all of the shapes on a sheet of paper. These will be paper patterns that you'll cut out, okay? So then we also have, and it keeps going, excuse me, we also have these papers. There are 9 designs per sheet. They're 2 inches square, and that way you can do several different things. You can do different sizes, you can do different shapes. We went ahead and made the oval and the circle earrings already cut or already shaped for you, because those are because they're tiny, they're a little bit trickier. So we just thought that would be a help. You don't have to use them if you don't want to. So there's one sheet, there is another, and you're probably noticing that there are patterns that are background patterns, and there are patterns that have more defined imagery. There's a reason for that. Okay, here is the next one, and we also have a Christmas set, so that works out nicely. So 9 of these per sheet, 4 sheets, 36 designs. Same thing on the earrings, you have 36, and then you have a gazillion on this sheet, and you have 1 of each on the acetate, okay? So these tools are going to enable us to make these pieces. So what I'm going to do is walk you through and do one of them. So I'm going to take this, you can see the birds, I just love it, I think it's gorgeous. And I'm going to play with my acetate first. And the acetate matches, obviously, the shape of the bezel. And I can move this around, so we'll get in really close. So I can put it over here. Maybe I want to get the secret garden and 2 of the birds. Maybe I want to get all of the birds. Maybe I want to go over here and just get the butterfly and the leaves and the text. I have choices. Now, if I wanted to do the square, I can do the same thing. Maybe I just want the 3 birds. Maybe I just want the leaves. I can move this around. Obviously, same thing with the circle, and with the oval, same exact thing. So it lets me see and choose the area that I want. Okay, so I'm going to choose the 3 birds, and you see that's a little bit inside the edge of the paper. So then I'm going to go to my paper patterns, and we've given you a whole sheet of them because it's just easier for you to have lots of extra, because when you cut them out, you can obviously reuse them, but you might lose them. So just easier to give you tons of them. Now, while you're going to cut the paper patterns, do not cut the acetate. This gets tricky to find on your craft table, and you want to keep it all together. So I would recommend not cutting it apart. Now, what you can do with this paper is you can hold it up, and this is what I did. Hold it up to a light. Now, this is going to look funny because I'm going to take it off camera, but I want to hold it up to a light and see through it to where those birds are. Okay, so I'm doing it like this. Now, you can hold it and cut it, or if you want to, you can put a little bit of glue onto the area that you don't want to use and hold it in place that way. So it's whatever you like. Maybe I'll do that just to demonstrate. So I'm just going to put a tab of glue at the top. I'm going to reposition this over my birds. and I'm aligning the top and bottom because that's the same size as what I want. And I'm just taking this over to, I'd actually like to take it to a window, but I don't have one here in the studio. So I'm going to hold that there. If you used a glue stick, that would be dry by now, but then I'm going to whack out the big piece. So because I don't want to have, you know, this whole big piece of paper that I'm manipulating. So I'm just going to wonk that out. By the way, you can see the earrings, the oval, there's a bird, there's a leaf, and there's two birds on the posts. So those are just all ready for you. Okay, now I'm going to trim this out with my scissors and just right on the line. Now you don't want to go outside the line. The line is going to be the shape of your bezel. And pretty much bezels are somewhat uniform, so that's helpful. But we wanted to make sure that we gave you the patterns of the bezels that we're carrying because that just makes it easier. So you're just trimming this out nice and straight. Now when you're doing the ovals and the circles, you definitely want to hold those in place and not shift them. Okay, so here we go. Now I'm just going to pull that up and we're good. Okay, so I've got my little birds, they're all set. Okay, so I'm going to bring in my craft sheet because we're going to use this. We need to seal this paper, and we're going to do that using the Cosmic Shimmer Specialist Glue. This is a great glue, comes in this container, and you do need to clip off the top. What's nice is that then there is a cap to hold that after you've opened it up. So I'm going to squeeze some out, and you do need a paintbrush. And it's important to seal this because you don't want the resin to go underneath your paper, and it can do that. So I'm just brushing this on. I'm going to do a single coat. This isn't the only step that we take in sealing this, so just want to tell you there's going to be a couple of steps to make sure it truly is sealed. And this glue obviously is going to dry clear, or I wouldn't be using it. And so we will, whoops, wait a moment. Now when first time I did this, I had it on a sheet, on my craft sheet, and you see how the glue billows out. Well, then I let it dry, and when I lifted it up, I had all of these strings, this kind of excess glue. You don't want to have that. I thought I would just push it to the back, but it made my paper lumpy. So just recommend that you kind of lift it up for a second. As it dries, it's going to flatten. So I have another one already for you. And let me turn my craft sheet so I have another space that's clean, and I'll bring in the other sheet, the other piece that I have already, so we don't have to wait for that to dry. Okay, so now I'm going to take my bezel and I'm going to put some glue in my bezel. Okay, now my paper is dry. As you can see, it's clear. It's got the glue on it. Now I'm going to take some more glue, so I'll squeeze them out here. And I'm going to brush some on the bezel. And here we go. And what I want to do is to be hyper vigilant about making sure that the paper is sealed. So the glue is what's going to seal the paper, and it will also initially hold it into the bezel. And you'll notice the bezel on the inside of this one has kind of dots, and that's fine. Okay, so I've got it right there, and I'm just going to place this inside. And yes, it will dry under that paper. So that's going to hold it down. Now, I also want to make sure, again, just being super careful, that the edges of the paper, that we don't want the UV resin to get into that paper. So I'm going to take my glue applicator, and notice this has really a needle nose point. I'm going to take out the pin. By the way, we sell extra pins because you're going to lose them. And I'm going to just run this around the edge of my bezel and my paper. And this, when you are doing tiny things, this is a lifesaver. Absolutely wonderful. Okay, so I'm just running it around the edge. And then I'm going to go over the top of the paper to give it one more coat. So there we go. And right around this edge. So again, just being really careful that this is completely covered. Okay, put my pin back in because you don't want that to dry out. There we go. Now, I've got glue here and I've got glue there. I'm going to squeeze out a little bit more, and I'm going to brush another coat on the front of my paper. And I've got glue on the edge there, and I can kind of bring that in also. And as you know, this is going to dry clear, so there's no problem. And it dries pretty quickly. So I find a flat paintbrush works best. So if that makes any difference to you. And just bring that in. Now we do need to wait for this to dry, and we're going to put our resin, will be the next step. And there is a little caution to that. Okay, so you see I've got glue everywhere. Okay, we're going to let that dry. So you want to make sure until the glue is clear before you do the next step. The next step is to apply the resin. Now I'm just going to squeeze enough. We really want to give it 2 coats, 2 light coats. So you don't want to squeeze a ton into it. And of course we're going to put the UV light in between the 2 layers. So I'm just squeezing in some. I will get my trusty toothpick and spread this. Now the bezels are not terribly thick, so that's just another thing to remember as you're pouring resin into it, that we want to have enough to leave enough room to have 2 layers. And you can make the resin dome, which is a pretty look, so I'll show you that in a second. And just like we've done with every single thing that we've made, you want to spread this around and get it into all the corners, of course. And it's kind of actually doing it to realize how much you need, but I think it's always best to go with less, and you can always add more. So rather than pouring in too much and having it overwhelm the bezel. Okay, so just making that nice and getting into all the edges. And I do have my flame. I don't see any bubbles, but just to be sure, I'll bring this in and just run it. And you are touching the resin with the flame, which feels really weird. Then I'm going to get the Mighty Light and do it probably 2 times just to make sure that that resin is really nicely cured. So I'll be right back. Oh, not that close.
Not that close.
There you go.
3, 2.
Okay, you probably can't see any difference, but the resin is there. Now I would do the same thing and put a second coat over that, just to, again, to give it that dome effect. And I've got another piece that I finished. This has the doming. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it just rises up a bit from the bezel. And it's something that the resin does on its own. You don't have to do any magic. Now, these are the bronze finish. And we do also have a bronze finish in the fancy oval. And with the fancy ovals, oh, by the way, we don't have them right now, but they're on order. We're getting bronze earrings, so that is in the mix. So with the bronze, what I was curious about is, would a light pattern or darker pattern work better? Well, you can take your pick, see what you think. I think they both work, and that's really kind of fun. And I just want to go back to showing you a little bit more of this doing the acetate. So I'm going to scoot these up. And again, here is a pattern. And I've taken the rectangle and I've done that. In fact, here is the bezel that's finished using that. But I could have gone over and had some of the color in with the black and white, or I could have scooted it over and had it all in the black and white. I've just got lots of choices, and that's what I like. Now, going into this one, I thought it would be fun to show you. Okay, so that's what you might want to do for the rectangle, but let's look at the square. Now, you can go like this and do it in the middle, or if you want to have that heart in it, you could do that. The circle, you can do the same thing. You can bring the heart into it. I elected to do it with the square, as you can see. And I also did the silver earrings. Now these are for pierced ears. And let me just show you something that you do with the earrings, because that obviously is going to be a problem when the resin is curing or when you've got the resin on there. So take some styrofoam, which you want to get rid of anyway, and just make a slit. And then you can just put that in, just push that puppy in, and then it will be flat, and it works really nicely. You can also do it, and I haven't shown you these yet, but these are the post earrings. Same idea. Just push them in and they will be flat for you. So that will enable you to be successful with curing those. Okay, so that, I thought it was fun to see the blue and the silver. So that is a pattern that is a definite pattern. And I also have, I wanted to show you this. So this is the one that we used right here. But again, I can take my acetate, and if I wanted to do a square, or I wanted to do a circle, or I could, again, take one of the designs and just isolate that if that's what I wanted. So it's just really nice that it is so movable. In fact, every now and again you can get a couple of them out of this 2-inch square. I do confess that I did go back to the jewel mix, this mammoth collection of crystals, and put the red one in before I did my resin, and that's what you're seeing in the middle right there. Okay, a couple of more things. I did find that when I was looking at gold, that anything that had yellow in it just really played nicely with the gold color. The other set I did in gold is this, and here are the earrings. And I was just really pleased. So the thing you can do is, if you want to buy several of the bezels, is you can cut out, choose your shape, cut them out, and then play with them into the different colors and see what you like. And the other one I did is this. And this comes from this design, which is really a beautiful abstract. And it was fun to do the post earrings with these. So again, you could pick different areas of it. Now, the other thing that you can do, in fact, there's so many things you can do. In fact, next month's webisode is going to be more things you can do. This is my granddaughter, Penelope, for whom you have heard me speak. And this is when she was little, but to have a photograph in your bezel is also something that's fun. So same process, nothing different, and you can cure it with the resin. So lots of fun ideas, lots of potential, and a lot of creativity, and that's you know, kind of that's what we're all about anyway. And I want to thank you for joining us. If you please tell me what you think. I want to hear your comments either on paperwishes.com or if you're watching us on YouTube. Of course, we want you to like us. We want you to comment. That's what I'm asking for, comments, and subscribe. That's what we would love. Now, we have put all the things, all the new things in a money saver, as always, on the right-hand side of your screen. And we would like you to get an extra discount if you want to get all of them, which is fun. And that's another thing about this, is that they are pretty inexpensive. And again, this new UV resin paper set is going to have those 4 sheets. It's going to have the humongous number of patterns, and also that incredibly useful but hard to see acetate sheet with the shapes right on it. So I hope you enjoy. We'll see you next month for the next UV resin. And thank you, as always, for being the very best part of paperwishes.com. Bye-bye.